after James Gunn's quotes about we all should unite and should just fucking deal with each other, let's tear this piece of shit apart. Fucking Thor Ragnarok. That's obviously a joke if someone didn't understand, even though it is a piece of shit. Anyway.
So we're going to get into our non-spoiler portion real quick.
So it's opening weekend for Thor Ragnarok, made $118 million. Nice. Not too bad for a Thor movie.
Yep.
Yeah. Just a little bit better than average. Especially because I think it was projected to make like 90 or something like that. Lately, these projections have been really bad.
Yeah.
They're always like 20, 30 million off. Like with Wonder Woman, they were off. Yeah. I guess, low balling. Low balling.
I guess that's the safe way to go. So, I guess to jump into non-spoiler,
Oh, wait, hold on. Before we jump into non-spoiler.
I have been stopped.
We want to preface something. And this is just us, this is our opinion. And we want to put this out there because there is a lot of this anger. I've seen anger for BVS, and it seems like now a lot of people have a lot of anger about Thor Ragnarok. It's like you either love it or you hate it. And if you don't, one of those two, you're
right.
Fucking retard.
Yeah.
It just seems a little over the top to me. And I just want to preface this that one, going into our review here, Shane and I's look on comedy is subjective.
Yes.
There is
on any movie is subjective, but yeah, definitely in comedy.
Especially when it comes to comedy, because comedy is very particular.
It is.
Because I don't think anybody has the same sense of humor.
No.
You can live with somebody for 40, 50 years, and you guys are just not going to have the same sense of humor. And, there's comedians that do things differently. Like Louis Black is a fucking angry political comic. Bo Burnham is a singing comic. Jeff Dunham is a puppet comic. There's all different varieties of comedy out there, etc. And this is one of the things that Shane and I disagree on. Shane likes Dane Cook. Yeah. I think Dane Cook is a piece of shit. He is not funny. He's worthless. But Shane loves him. Yeah. So there's a difference. There's right there a huge difference between comedy.
Well, one of the things that...
I appreciate comedy. Shane doesn't.
Clearly, yeah. One of the things that I still think is so funny was the time that... So I used to watch on HBO, they had this show called The Ricky Gervais Show. And it was basically like their podcast. You know where I'm going with this?
I think so.
And then it was cartooned into this TV show for like over a half an hour. They would just take little clips of it. And I thought it was fucking hilarious. My wife looked at me like I was a moron. So I'm like, you know what? Matt appreciates comedy. So, Matt, come over. I want you to watch this show with me. He sits there just deadpan, straight face the whole fucking time as I'm losing it.
Laughing so much.
And I'm looking over at him like, how is this not funny to you?
Come on, man. He's such an idiot.
It's funny, right?
Yes,
it's funny.
He's an idiot.
I enjoy, I'm not a pothead, but I enjoy pothead humor.
Oh, yeah. And that's another one you and I really disagree on, is Seth Rogen.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I can't stand that idiot.
Right. Except for Monsters vs. Aliens.
Yeah, when he plays Bob.
Yeah.
That's definitely his best role, because I didn't have to see him. And he didn't try to smoke a joint or talk about being Jewish.
Right, exactly.
So it was different.
Yeah, sure. just wait till Lion King.
When Pumbaa lights up a fucking doobie. Do people use the word doobie anymore?
I don't know.
Am I speaking?
That's perfect. But yeah,
that doobie is.
that's a perfect example of how, even though we agree, on our preference of superhero films, comedy, we don't. We're just on two opposite sides. There's certain. I think we agree on a lot of the Jim Carrey, Dumb and Dumber, like that type of humor. There's some crossover, but we also are on a large spectrum of differing. So
when it comes to comic book movies, though, for the most part, Shane and I do line up. Yeah. And especially when it comes to what we desire in a comic book movie. And Shane said something recently to me that I just thought resonated really well. You were talking about when it comes to a comic book movie, no matter what genre type of comic movie it is, you would prefer a Logan over a Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I would prefer, no matter what, I don't mind a Guardians of the Galaxy.
No. Yeah.
I don't mind the first Avengers. I don't mind the first Iron Man. I love all three of those, actually. Those are MCU movies that I will rewatch, and I have rewatched. I own them on Blu-ray.
Right.
And I have rewatched. I remember when I first got Guardians of the Galaxy, I rewatched it hundreds of times during Christmas.
Yeah, I remember
I had it on fucking repeat.
Right.
I really burned myself out on it doing that, but I liked it a lot. I liked that first one for the most part, anyway. And those MCU movies work. So it's not MCU hate.
No.
There is a formula. We see a formula.
Yeah.
There is things that the MCU Disney does to generate mass appeal, which does bug me because I feel like they try to make mass appeal first.
Yeah.
Before they make a good movie.
They are fantastic at it. They are geniuses.
Oh, just look at the Star Wars thing.
Yeah.
That trailer, I didn't even really pay attention the first time I saw the trailer, but they got another cute, adorable porg or whatever the hell, that thing that screams with Chewbacca.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. Money-making machine.
Oh, absolutely. Dude, I've seen so many like
Baby
memes
Groot,
and
BB-8. Jesus Christ, dude.
Yep. That's what they do.
They're going to own us.
If they don't already.
China, they're going to own us.
Yeah, they're great at doing it. I agree. You know, they definitely go with mass appeal first. You know, how that was a lot of people's gripe about The Force Awakens. You know, is that it just stuck to a successful formula instead of branching out a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
they felt it just took from the first one.
Right.
And some parts of the other ones as well.
Yeah.
It was basically a rehash.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you know, so that's just kind of how we are. But again, it's all subjective. And before we get into a review, Shane and I already know that we're in the minority.
Yes.
All right. We know it. You're not going to change your minds on this, and we don't really expect to change your mind.
No.
This is just our opinion, and we do realize we're in the minority on this one.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to be a tad bit more reasonable-ish than most in our group, I guess.
Yeah.
But
we're going to try to be.
Yeah, I'm bouncing right now. Yeah. I still have not come up with a score yet, but we'll see what happens.
All right. Off the cuff after we talk about all this stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get into our non-spoiler review.
Yeah. Okay. So non-spoiler as quick as I can. You know, we've kind of already talked about a lot of this stuff already, but if you enjoy the Marvel formula, if you enjoy a Marvel movie, you will enjoy this. If you enjoy Doctor Strange, Ant-Man, a lot of the films that they've, you know, pumped out with kind of this, you know, humor, it's got some action in it. You know, the bright colors, Guardians of the Galaxy, sort of, you know, I'll get into more detail about that later, but you will definitely enjoy this movie. It's pretty fast paced, you know, for the most part. That's going to be contradictory a little bit later, but the story moves along, you know, pretty well. Jumps around a little bit at certain points. I would say to try to talk about some of the characters. I liked. I actually did enjoy aspects of Hela. I thought she could have been better, but
I thought she was hot.
Yeah, she was.
I liked her first costume better. She just changed costumes in this.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's really a spoiler to somebody or not. If it is, you're pathetic.
Yeah. She's definitely she's smoking hot. The action scenes that she's in are pretty awesome.
Except for one.
I enjoyed. Okay.
There's one I'll bring up in the spoiler one.
Okay, so we'll get into that. But I enjoyed her. She still, unfortunately, kind of fits in the Marvel villains, nerfed a little bit
when it comes to it. Yeah.
Yeah, inconsistent powers. You know, is one of my biggest gripes. But I enjoyed her. The humor for me overall, most of it missed. There are some entertaining moments, which we'll get into the specifics about that. But you know, as we kind of prefaced, humor is a little all over the place. You know, it's all subjective. You know, and how you like it. You know, just like anything else, how you like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then
dirty thoughts.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Handstands,
however you like it. Yeah, and I thought I enjoyed the characters. You know, for the most part, is this different? Going back to the Mark Ruffalo conversation, you know, if you listen to that video on YouTube or at the beginning of the podcast, it's definitely they threw a lot out. Of the previous iterations of the characters.
If you like the first Thor movies and you like the story they were telling in that, say bye-bye.
Yeah.
Say bye-bye to
pretty
that.
much. So that's mostly what I got as far as a non-spoiler.
So going into this movie, after seeing the initial reviews for it basically came to my knowledge that this was going to be, there's action and comedy, and then there's comedy first and then action second. And this was definitely going to be from the reviews I was seeing, was going to be comedy first, action second. So I started trying to think my best anyway, that, okay, this is going to be like different movies where comedy was much more prevalent in them than action, like Zombieland. You know, this is an end of the world type movie. but there's still jokes. So I try to compare it to those type of movies.
That's
Zombieland, Shaun of the Dead.
Right. That's a great comparison.
At World's End, stuff like that. That one's more rated R and more stuff like that. But I try to compare it to that one. Those ones. Those are end of the world movies with comedy in them, more comedy and some action in them.
Right.
For the most part. And they don't hold a candle to those type of movies. Those movies do it. Thor Ragnarok doesn't hold a candle to those ones.
Yeah.
This doesn't even come close to those. It doesn't hold up very well in the same similar situation. The editing, I think, as Taika Waititi was talking about, definitely was hindered in this one. There was so many mistakes, and when Cinema Sins gets a hold of this movie,
oh my god,
they're gonna probably rip it apart. Because if you pay attention, there is so many mistakes, so many conveniences, just things they did to rush them, kind of push the movie along and rush it. It was.
I think the quote that we were discussing earlier about how his first cut wasn't any good, and they had to jump in and do some reshoots and chop it all up and everything like that. I think that was evident. At the end of the day, you're like, okay, it's pretty choppy.
It's really choppy. If you thought the theatrical cut of BVS was choppy in any manner,
oh man,
this is way more choppy than that.
And
one.
We'll get into very specifics in the spoiler talk, but there's parts where it's a little all over the place, and it doesn't take the Civil War approach to remind you where it's at, or
Brooklyn or the Bronx or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But it definitely gets messed up by that. It becomes disjointed and it's just not. It doesn't flow very well. I didn't think it flowed very well. There is some choices done in this movie that are just. They're done in a way that is almost like jaw-dropping, in a way of like, holy crap, they really. When Mark Ruffalo's comment was like they threw everything out. They really did throw everything out, and they did not care.
Yeah,
they didn't. They just went with it. And there's things that happen in this. The jokes still come afterwards. It's definitely that typical Marvel formula. But I thought it was turned up to a degree a little bit higher in this one than most.
Yeah, I don't want to get into too much of a detailed non-spoiler edition, I guess. But one of my biggest problems, I think, and why some of the humor didn't work after kind of thinking about it for me was I think this film had a large identity crisis. It couldn't figure out, or Waititi couldn't figure out if he wanted it to be a Guardians of the Galaxy type film or more to a Winter Soldier, even Civil War, to some respects of like, deeper moments. And I think that's why I was kind of conflicted on how I am supposed to feel about a specific scene. There's what was one of the things that we watched where it talks about how you're supposed to approach. I think it was a video kind of involving the Fountainhead, maybe.
Oh, are you talking about the wisecrack?
Yeah, I think so. Just basically like how you're supposed to approach each scene, and and how you're supposed to take like the feelings and stuff. I think that was the video. Anyways,
it might be the Just Right thing you're thinking of, with the when he talks about breaking down Wonder Woman, but he's talking about that initial thing with Doctor Strange.
Yes, that is what I'm talking about. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you're talking about the Just Right video.
Yes, but I digress. So I feel like with this film, I was very conflicted on how I was supposed to feel from scene to scene, and if I think I wasn't ready to laugh, and even on some very predictable funny parts that everyone else laughed at, even you would laugh at something, I chuckled, but I was kind of all over the place, and I think that's where one of my biggest conflictions with this film is it kind of it has identity crisis. It couldn't figure out, okay, are we going to be comedy first? Because I feel like there's a solid part in there, a good 30 minutes maybe, where it's just sticking to, no, shit's about to go down. Yeah. And instead of, like you were saying, a Zombieland, or Shaun of the Dead, something where it's like, no, just one thing after another, just don't take this very serious. And Guardians of the Galaxy is definitely comedy first. I think everyone will agree with that. And I think this film wasn't sure which route it wanted to go. And ultimately, that's where I probably should have saved this for the synopsis, but that's kind of my non-spoiler summary.
like Shane said, if you like those previous movies that we've talked about, if you like the Guardians of the Galaxy, if you like the Doctor Strange type movies, go see it. We watched it in Atmos, surround sound. The sound was cool. A lot of different things going on. A couple cool characters here and there. The Korg character was okay. I remember him being okay as well. If you thought that this was going to have some kind of major resemblance to Planet Hulk, no, they definitely did not. They used 4 parts of Planet Hulk maybe in this.
Very, very small portion.
Yeah, it had really nothing to do with the Planet Hulk plotline. The Thor Ragnarok graphic novel, from what I gathered on that one, I skimmed it. It had a couple of the same things from that one that lead up to certain issues. I don't want to say them because it'll be spoiler, but again, it was pieced together to make a certain movie, and they made that movie they wanted to make.
Yep.
Is it the best Marvel movie? No. I'm sorry. That's one thing. There's people's opinions, but that's just clearly wrong.
I love how we talk about, like, everyone has their different opinions. It's subjective. You're fucking wrong.
But it's just, no, to call it the best Marvel movie, it's just... I wouldn't even call it the best Marvel. Well, I know for a fact it's not the best. For me, anyway, it's not the best Marvel movie of this year.
Yeah,
by far.
No. We have other things we're gonna discuss at the end of this. That we'll get into more detail on. But yeah, I've noticed a continual. I guess, but repetitive pattern of, remember Doctor Strange, November of last year, greatest Marvel movie ever, and then we get to the Guardians of the Galaxy 2, greatest Marvel movie ever. Spider-Man Homecoming, greatest Marvel movie. It started with like Civil War, and I
think saw something on Instagram where they started comparing Marvel movies to like The Godfather or something like that. It's the Godfather of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and somebody had a great breakdown. It was like 4 movies that someone wrote the same article for. It's 4 different MCU movies. It's like this movie is Doctor Strange is the Godfather Part 2 of MCU. Civil War is like the Godfather part. It was crazy. It was actually really funny.
I wish I could get paid to regurgitate the same bullshit shit on, like,
well, we
on
do
websites.
That here, but we don't get paid.
We don't get paid anything.
nothing at all.
Yeah, touche.
With Doctor Strange, real quick, I think we kind of said around maybe only 20% of the jokes landed for Doctor Strange. Like 80% of it, we were like maybe 75. We were just, and I would almost say the same for this one, for me anyway. But the ones that did land, I did laugh pretty fucking hard at.
Yeah,
that was the difference. There was chuckles in Doctor Strange. Yeah. This one, I had a smirk, but when I did laugh, I did have a pretty good laugh at it.
From what I can remember with Doctor Strange, we laughed at things that we were not supposed to laugh at.
And we did in this one, too.
Yeah, we did for sure. But really? I think that's where, if you're counting something as a joke, in hindsight, I would almost say that Doctor Strange was less than 20%, of the actual jokes. From what I remember, I just remember most of the stuff we were supposed to laugh at. We didn't. And then in this, like you said, there were some moments where, like, okay, that was pretty funny. I'll give him that one.
I remember there was a couple times, there was 2 of them I could think of. I'm not going to say what they are because it's a spoiler, but there was one part I laughed pretty hard at because I could not believe that they did the joke at that moment. The joke was kind of funny, but I was laughing more like, holy fuck, I can't believe during that moment they did a joke. So that's kind of more I was laughing at. So if you like those movies, if you like the ones we talked about, check it out. If you're more of a DC guy, I would say avoid it. Wait for it to come out on DVD or VHS, and definitely check it out at
VHS. That took me a minute
because it's just not going to be. I don't think it's going to be quite your cup of tea. But who knows? Comedy again is subjective.
Yep.